What do I say before every program? Curtis Sliwa is a politician who says, trust no politician because they are fakes, phony, fraudulent fugazis who could change in a heartbeat. Here's another example. It was in 2007. Kathy Crime Wave Holcomb was the clerk, the county clerk in Erie County, her home county. Remember, she has said, when I look out of my kitchen window across Lake Erie, I can see the province of Ontario in Canada. And unlike Sarah Palin, who was the governor of Alaska and said she could look out her kitchen window and see Russia, that was incorrect. Actually, Kathy Crime Wave Holcomb can look out her kitchen window across the Erie River and see the province of Ontario. But when she was the county clerk, she was rough and tough. She vowed to have illegal aliens arrested if they applied for a driver's license in the offices that she controlled throughout Erie County. Now, that's 2007. Then all of a sudden, speed it up 11 years. She becomes the lieutenant governor candidate with Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo, who had actually lost Erie County the election before, so he was a bit paranoid. Figured he would get Erie County's favorite daughter, who was the former congresswoman, the former county law and order clerk, Kathy Crime Wave Holcomb, on his ticket. And then she did the flip. She became a believer in what Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo was saying all throughout 2018 and every year thereafter in his governorship.
New York State is the state that says we will not cooperate with ICE. They're a bunch of thugs. He politicized ICE. They're a bunch of thugs. We said we will sue them if they violate any criminal laws in the state of New York.
So 11 years afterwards, Kathy Crime Wave Holcomb suddenly latches on like an appendage, like a barnacle, to the good ship Cuomo, and she's vilifying ICE. Everything that she would have done as county clerk, she now amends and says, absolutely not. Let the illegals in, give them driver's licenses, and give us the whole concept of when you are a migrant and you apply for a license. This was tried by Elliot Spitzer years ago and across the board defeated. But then when Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo became the governor after David Paterson, he had passed a measure that would allow a migrant to not only have a license, but also it could be used to actually vote. Am I correct?
Yeah, so here's like the interesting element of this. It seems to really be premised on this idea that everyone living within the state, they're trying to attach to some form of an ID. So the green light law that you're speaking of, it prohibits the employees from a DMV from asking a person's citizenship when they register to vote at DMV. So if you're going into the DMV just to apply for one of these ID cards, in addition to, if you're trying to apply for a driver's license, there's very limited information they're going to ask you to prove who you are. And if you claim you don't have a social security number, you don't have to, prove, you don't have to have a card with you. You can just sign off an affidavit saying, I don't have one. That's going to be acceptable. But the problem really starts with this automatic registration that occurs once someone's name is in the system at the DMV, that they automatically send that information to the Board of Elections, and it's irrespective of whether or not they're a citizen, because they can't ask them that question, and they don't have necessarily proof of a social security number, and it's very light on the proof. So here's where the problem is. They don't know if they're technically allowing people to vote who aren't permitted to vote.
So it really is incumbent upon the illegal alien to check off the box that says I'm not a citizen in that entire process so that he or she would not be qualified to vote.
Well, and that would be, again, right? So now we're just going on the honor system. This is the same way that these prepaid cards that are going to everyone who arrives in the Roosevelt Hotel, they have to swear they're only going to use the money for, baby goods or home services. So again, your word is your honor, except we don't know any of these people, so I'm not sure.
Ridiculous. And yet, we had yesterday on the Hill in Congress, You had the Speaker of the House, Johnson, who is preparing legislation that would require during all federal elections, that you would have to show ID in order to vote.
Correct.
Now, you say to yourself, what is wrong with that? In almost everything you do nowadays, you have to show ID. Black people have to show ID. Hispanic people have to show ID. First generation immigrants have to show ID. Everybody's got to show ID. Sometimes for the dumbest of reasons, you got to show ID. You go into a bodega, you want to buy a pack of cigarettes, you got to show ID that you're of age. If you want to buy a beer, same thing. But to vote, at least here, and in New Jersey and Connecticut and a lot of these same states and cities, they consider themselves sanctuary states and sanctuary cities, which means they already want to give total equality to the illegal alien, the migrant. You don't have to show ID. When you register to vote, you don't have to show ID. All you have to do is eventually show, like a Verizon bill, that you live at the address that you claim that you're a resident of.
Yeah, and what's even, creepier now is that because not as many people have registered for some of these ID cards that I guess they expected to register, we have teams of, people working for the city of New York that are being deployed to airports, state parks, and libraries in trying to help people sign up for these cards. So again, it's not even that you have to be as proactive to have someone going to the DMV. Now you have outreach teams just trying to get your information, sign you up with something that's going to automatically register you to vote, and there's no proof that you would really have. Again, I mean, you could make an Adobe copy of saying, oh, here's a bill that comes to my house, here's this. I mean, there's so lack of following up on really this proof. I mean, so again, therein lies a problem. You can have someone who is definitely not able to vote because they're not a U.S. citizen, and that's the problem.
And yet a national ID card would resolve all that. I am a citizen of the United States. There's proof positive. I am entitled to vote.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's so like, for instance, some of the bills they propose is like if you are for the first time registering by virtue of the DMV, it would just be basic requirements providing documentation that you are a U.S. citizen. So if that's what's happening, if you're being automatically registered by virtue of going to get some sort of an ID card at the DMV, they can't automatically put you into the voter system. You have to be able to show proof of citizenship prior to that happening. I mean, that's the minimum mandate that's being asked for, that's being fought against.
Interesting, because oftentimes you've asked me to purchase items for the house that required showing an ID. Justin Ellick, I have one of those little passport, cards. As opposed to the passport, which some people, especially Jewish people, always carrying around with them. They never know when they have to pick up and go. History dictates that. So I have shown this because I don't have a driver's license as ID. And recently, because it's suspended.
Well, yeah, expired, correct?
It expired. People were saying to me, we can't accept this as an ID. And I say to them, you know who I am, right? Oh, yeah, you're Curtis Sliwa. You know, I ran for mayor. I voted for you. But I can't accept this ID. And I'm saying to myself, wait, if I'm an illegal alien here, right? Well, we can't ask you. We're not permitted to go into that. We pretty much have to give you whatever it is you're asking for.
That's almost how difficult they made it for us to get the marriage license, if you remember that.
That's right. We saw illegal aliens beating the system in arranged marriages. The county clerk in Manhattan. And yet what happened? They demanded like 4 forms of identification from us.